Ahoy, mateys! 'Tis I, Captain Horatio Honeyflakes, and I be here to tell you about me newest crowdfunding campaign. The adventures continue with me crew, the Mighty Mascots, in issues 7, 8, and 9. Just focus your looking glass on the amazing artwork of Ian Warianto and Anton Bondi. Me crew, the Mighty Mascots, are up against some scurvy scallywags, and we need ye help to defeat them. There be a bounty of exclusive treasure, only available here, where X marks the spot. I spy a huge coffer of bonuses and stretch goals on the horizon. Then please consider pledging so we can continue these adventures with the weirdest crew I ever had the pleasure of sailing with. Mascots Unleashed!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots. With me, as always, Johnny C., creator of Sartana and Surrounded by Death. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good, man. Look, a special holiday edition of ICR.
I know. When we thought that this was supposed to be the last Wednesday show, we're on Tuesday. So we made a move, I guess, right? Officially?
Yeah. I would say like Tuesday. We'll try it for a while. If Tuesday sucks, maybe we'll go back to Wednesday. I mean,
yeah.
I don't, it's hard to tell what night. I don't think anytime you do it, you're going to just be stepping on somebody's toes, so
someone be streaming somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like I don't see a lot of stuff happening on Tuesdays stream wise, so
yeah,
it might be a good night for us, except for our friends over at Catch the Craze, and I think the Nerds of the Round, they do Tuesdays as well, don't they?
Yep. And as well as our guests from last show, they have a Tuesday show as well.
Oh, okay. They're earlier though, right? They're earlier than us. They start at like 7 or 8 or
right, exactly. I think with if we reevaluate, I think Tuesday's a good day. We might want to reevaluate the timestamp, but aside from that, we'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes.
Oh yeah, we talked about going to like 8:30 or something, right?
Yeah,
8:30. Yeah, we could do that. I mean,
we could try it out.
I'd be game for that. I mean,
we should see what the audience thinks. So if you're seeing this, comments and drop something in the notes. When do you want to see us, or would you see us whenever? You know what I mean? Like I think people would follow us no matter what. Yeah,
exactly. 8:30 would mean that we would, because our shows typically we try for an hour, but they typically run about 90 minutes. So that 8:30 start would get us done by 10. And I know we both work day jobs, and we just kind of need that. Robert says 1 a.m.
1 a.m. Just Saturdays, I'm up at 1 a.m. to do that. So.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, no, I mean, we both, getting to bed early for our jobs is always key, and things like that. But yeah, so how was your Christmas though? Like, how did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, Christmas was good. Spent it with family. Got a few neat gifts. I always get the Hallmark ornaments, so I got a few cool Hallmark ornaments. Nice. Yeah, and that's about it. What's that?
Geek related?
Oh yeah, of course, always.
Yeah.
I got a Miles Morales. I got a Thor from Love and Thunder. I got Luke from the ending of Mandalorian there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice. And Doctor Strange. So cool. And it's just like my tree's filled with geek ornaments. Yeah, and I get a few awesome. Every year.
Yeah. I love that. I bought one last year of the Christmas Story, but it was a clamshell VHS copy of Christmas Story as an ornament.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, because you always see like Ralphie and the shot in the BB gun, or
or the leg lamp.
Yeah, the leg lamp, or the kid with hung on the pole and stuff like that. But I thought that was a really neat, neat ornament, so I bought it. But we didn't really we didn't set up the tree until about a week before Christmas. I mean, it came in like a bastard this year.
Yeah, so that's the other thing too, is Christmas came and went really, really quickly. So it was like, it's a little bit nuts how, and the same thing too, I bought my Christmas tree 2 weeks before Christmas, but didn't get it fully up and running until a week before. So it's just wow. Yeah.
Amy did it for us. Like, she was home one day, she had a day off and she set it all up, and I came home and it was done. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So,
yeah. I was like, oh, one sweat off my plate.
Yeah. That. And I was just like, well, I didn't really care if we decorated this year, as long as we got presents for people and things like that,
Right.
Because honestly, we don't have a ton of people coming visit us anyways, unless we have a party or something,
Right.
There's no random drop-ins we usually get, so.
Right.
So it's like, who are we decorating for? The rabbits, I guess.
I was just saying, COVID killed the random drop-in.
Yeah, pretty much, Yeah, ours was good too. It was very quiet this year. We normally it's like a cluster fuck trying to figure out where we're going on Christmas Day. This year it was simple. We just went to my mother's on Christmas Eve, and then we went to Amy's sister's on Christmas Day. And that's it.
Nice. So
things.
You didn't have to host, which is kind of a nice thing, right? Yeah, it's always nice to be
home by 6 or 7, so we just watched a couple movies and went to bed. It was really nice.
That is nice. That's nice. I always like this time of year because it's also there's a little bit less to do, so there's more time to catch up on movies and things like that. And I've missed a bunch of movies this year too that normally I would have seen double the amount of movies I saw this year at this point. So I like this period to be able to catch up a little bit on that kind of stuff too. And I always do a top 10 movie preview,
Oh yeah, you doing that this year?
Probably, yeah. We'll probably do the podcast with those guys and do that top 10.
Awesome. Yeah, that's always fun. So we got 2 great guests tonight, as always. These guys are returning guests, both of them. We've had before, both great guys. Before we get into that, though, always got to share the Mighty Mascots campaign. Had some movement this week.
That's awesome. Great news.
Yeah, it's up to 7,700. It was stuck at 75 for a while, and now it's boosted up. I noticed the other day, I happened to go check it on Indiegogo, and it was trending for some reason. It was in the top trending campaigns.
Oh,
and I was
cool.
oh, that's cool. And that's where I think I got these extra backers from, whenever you trend, you're always there at the top and on the main thing. So
yeah, I was lucky for Surrounded by Death to get that Project We Love badge, and it trended.
Oh my God, that always helps, right? That's
helped a bunch tremendously. Yeah. I think they just knew how nervous I was about the campaign, so they threw me a bone.
Well, no, I mean it's a good book. It's I think it's a little bit of that, and then a little, I think it's a good book. So I think.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And plus you're an active member there, so I think all those things,
kind of rolled in.
But it's those little things that help, because you have your set base of people that will back you no matter what. But then you have that little stamp, and it's like having the Twitter. The
verification.
Check. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It gives you this
which
little
people
more...
are just buying nowadays anyway, so it's not really valued anymore.
Hey, maybe we could start buying the Kickstarter approval one, at some point.
Yeah.
But no, that just gives a little bit of perception, or helps the perception of the book a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
And I think people especially even with blurbs. When you have stuff on your book that says, "Oh, this is awesome," so and so said this was great. If you had a blurb from Kevin Smith or something, Yeah,
I did have the photo of him and Jay, with the book on the campaign, so that could have helped as well. But
yeah, definitely. Kind of an unspoken or silent endorsement kind of
silent endorsement. Yeah. Like maybe they can't fully put their name and quote on it, but like,
yeah.
you know, here's the book. Oh, cool. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so just quick, everybody, if you haven't backed it, check it out. We're working towards the 10,000 stretch goal, which is the temporary tattoos, and I'm hoping to add the figures soon, as soon as we have them. But I honestly don't know when I'm gonna get them. The guy's kind of he takes a little longer. He said a couple months, so I'm hoping like February, maybe March at the latest, and then maybe I could put it up and
Either way, it'll be well worth the wait. The prototypes on Facebook look awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be great. And the packaging all came out great and it looks really good. So just something else to sell at conventions and,
Totally.
And, and then, I don't know. Did you see my thing, my newsletter about Plastic City too? About
I saw that the new location's official. I may have missed the last.
Okay, the last one, they dropped a parking thing on us, a bomb this last week.
Oh, what happened? Ago.
So in 2023, they're starting to, they're going to do charging for parking on the weekends for weekend events, which is mostly sporting stuff, but also us, like any kind of event that happens on a weekend, you're going to start charging $10 for parking.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like picking people's brains about that. If anybody out there is watching and they have a thought on it, let me know. But we're kind of like, so we complained about it and they said that they would, waive the parking for this year, which is great, so we can have the first a real good event, $10 to get in. No parking fee, and then everybody can kind of come in.
So what you're telling me is that 2023 guaranteed free parking.
Yes. 2024 might be a different story, though.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess we'll have to make a decision whether we stay there or we don't.
We can always have people park in Boxborough for free. We can shuttle them over because there's always free parking in Boxborough. I hear.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. A half hour later, half hour shuttles. Unless you get a few shuttles doing that.
Yeah, we'll just shuttle them back and forth.
Yeah, the thing that sucks is there's no street parking over there either.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Because it's kind of literally through this neighborhood, and then you have to go up this long driveway to get to the place. And it's like if you parked out in this neighborhood, you're walking at least like 2 miles to get to the place.
That's a little bit of a haul,
and it's all uphill, So it's it's like when you go to a hospital and it's like like the entrance, and it's like it's all this winding roads to get to the hospital. It's like that,
Yep.
But yeah, so I don't know. I threw it out there and I mentioned it on our live stream just so if people haven't thought about it. I think hopefully they get enough complaints and they get rid of the parking fee, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, so I would probably, from a business perspective, ask what does the parking fee go to financially? Is it just using the parking lot, or do they have staff that flag people and put them into play? I'd say, what does that money buy you when you get the parking? Just the spot? You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah. So it's like maybe I could work out a deal with them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe be like half price or something.
Yeah, that's true. Robert actually is a good find a sponsor that wants to cover the inside cost of parking for advertising in the lot. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. There's a lot. There's a lot of things we could look at. That's the thing about our show is we try to keep it cheap. So adding that parking fee just a little, it makes our convention a lot more to come to,
Yeah, puts you in that Aloha Con territory, price-wise.
Big time.
Yeah.
So before we bring into the guests tonight, though, too, I want to say hello to people. We got Creators Outlet with us. Hail, nerds, hail. Robert Burke, which we already talked about. Good to see you here. Let me see. We got more people. I know my wife is here. Ara. Always got Ara in the chat.
Always good to have Ara in the house.
And let me see. Hey, Johnny C. Hey, Amy Birdhouse and everyone else. Robert Burke said fam. Yeah. And Amy said time for a poll. Yeah, I should do a poll right here on YouTube and see what people think about that.
Yeah.
And on Twitter too. It would be a good idea. I almost want people to come to the show, get a little taste, and then let me know if the parking fee, is worth paying to come to the show,
Right.
Let me see. So Ara said any time that we do the show is good for him. That's good.
That's good.
To hear. My wife said the pets appreciate the decorations. And Dr. Mask with us as always. What's up, Dr. Mask? Good to see you, buddy. I think that's about it. Oh, Harry. Harry says, why not a shuttle from the old venue to the new? What does parking cost? So they're trying to do $10 for the whole day. So it's not bad, but it's so you pay $10 to park, and then you have $10 for the admission. So it's kind of like you said, right in Aloha Con territory, right?
Yeah,
there.
that's steep. If you can get them down to 5.
Yeah, it might be worth. Yeah, I gotta see if I can do some bartering with them,
Yeah,
and see what because I love the venue and I'd hate to leave it,
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think what might help is if they see how well the show brings in business for them, they might overlook the parking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like we have maybe a little bartering system there, or something like that. Ara said he'd go no matter what, so that's good to hear. Let me see. Heartbreak Hill to Plastic City. At least there's AC. Yeah, that's the thing. It fixes all the problems that we have. Let me see. The money for parking goes into the center's pockets. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Nowadays 10 isn't bad, but obviously zeros. Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm thinking. And that was the whole goal of my show is to be cheap for everybody, so it adds like $10 to the vendors too and the artists and creators. So, and they're already paying for their tables, so it's like, here's an extra smack in the face as you walk in the door, before you start making money,
That's tough too. Yeah. Cause that does pass along to the vendors. If you're exhibiting at a show and people had to pay $10 to get in, $10 to park, that's already a little less they can shop with you. Right. So the more they can bring, and that's part of the beauty of that very first Plastic City was that it was free to get in and there wasn't any payment for parking. So people came in, they spent their money because they could, they patronized the artists and the vendors, and that, put the show in a really good motion and gave the show a really good reputation.
I agree. Maybe our guests have an opinion on this. They've probably been listening backstage.
You've been jibber jabbing for too long. Let's bring those guys in.
Yeah. Let's start with first Ari, who's retired.
How you guys doing?
Ari, good to see you.
Hey, Ari, good to see you, my man.
And Enrique Lopez, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Have you guys been listening backstage?
Yeah. I mean, where I come from, $10 parking isn't much at all for the whole day.
I know. Yeah, you're right in the center of New York,
like
right?
New York City. Yeah, I mean, I'm on Long Island now, but you can't park anywhere for $10.
Yeah. I know. And the funny thing is up here though, $10 is it's two cities that aren't used to paying for parking anywhere they go. You know what I mean? So you're adding $10. It's just like almost like a cash grab, basically.
Fitchburg ain't New York, that's for sure.
Got that right. How about you, Enrique? Any thoughts on that? I mean, you do a lot of shows. What's that?
Yeah, my shows are usually, like I said, like New York area. So $10
so you're used to paying
like,
$50-$60.
Free. That's free.
Yeah.
That's less than the bus. But
that's a good
but when
point.
I do, like, for example, there are some shows I've had to pay some parking, and for example, when I did Gem City, even though I was a guest, that was only $6. That was only $6. So it's like, okay, $6 is not a big deal. Most of the shows I've done, luckily, have been either at this hotel I'm staying at, which already is included, or they're just in regular areas that they don't charge.
Right? Yeah. Like it'd be different if this was sort of like a parking garage situation, but it's not. It's just like like a normal like mall. Like you would see a parking lot at a mall. Like it's that kind of thing. Johnny, it's like you did Retro Expo, right?
Yep, exactly.
The place is very similar to that one. Exactly. So it's like imagine charging for parking for there, like
that's a little. Well, they were also very picky about us. We couldn't park in the main area. We had to park way up back for that show too. So
and we could do something like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what
carpool.
Yeah, exactly. My hope is they get a lot of shit and then they just kind of take it away, So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how that. But
we can try to finagle a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, guys.
Week, What's that?
So thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely. Since it's sort of right before New Year's, do you guys? Oh, we'll go around the room, but do any of you guys do New Year's resolutions or?
I've actually written a bunch about New Year's resolutions the last few years on my blog, and I have a little bit of a different angle than most people do.
Okay.
Because nowadays, when people talk about setting goals, they're all about measurable goals and SMART goals and things like that. I've never been that way. I always set a bunch of goals that I know aren't achievable. Set them way up in the sky, because even if I get halfway there, I'm still getting further than I would have with a goal. Like I feel like, you set a goal that you're going to reach, you're not really pushing yourself. And then you hit it, and then psychologically it's different. So like I always try to do a little more than I did the year before. Whatever it was. Like even on, those Goodreads, how many books are you going to read? However many I read, I put 5 more than the last year. And eventually that's not sustainable, right? Because you only have a certain amount of time to do it. However many pages I wrote, a little more, right? However many short stories I wrote, or comics pages or whatever.
Or you change it, like morphs into something else. Instead of like writing pages, it's like, let me do a whole book, instead. Or
but the other thing that I always do emphasize in goals is you have to set the goals that are under your control. Because a lot of people set these goals like, I'm going to be published in X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to, whatever. I'm going to write a book. Those aren't in your control. Those are as much in somebody else's control as they are in your control. That's why they tell you to set these. They have these artificial goals. Like, big one that they tell writers is get 100 rejections, right? So that means if you're getting 100 rejections, you're not looking for acceptances. It's more of a submission number. I mean, it's just a trick to submit 100 times to professional markets, whatever. It's not a thing like that. But you can set a goal for how many times you're going to submit to a Science Fiction Writers Association qualifying market, a Horror Writers Association qualifying market. You can't control how many of those are going to be acceptances, because you're not the one reading and making those decisions, right?
Right.
You have to set goals that are within your control, or else it's not really a goal, right? Or else it's not really, if it's not something that you're in control of whether you're going to achieve or not, then you're setting yourself up to either succeed or fail without having agency in the process. You want something that you're going to have agency in, right? And I tell this to my students of all time: you have to pay more for parking, right? That would, that's easy, right? That's one of those easy.
Guaranteed, goals, right? Harry, will happen.
Guaranteed. You've already done it, right? But you want to set the goal that the success or failure, whether or not you achieve the goal, is going to be dependent on you rather than on factors beyond your control.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And how about you, Enrique? Do you set goals for yourself creatively every year, or?
I'm one of those weird guys in the sense of no, because I have a philosophy that my wife hates, and and that I am not I do not like. I hear everybody talking about New Year's and all this kind of stuff, and And I'm of the philosophy that time is linear. Okay, so it's not like because you're flipping a calendar doesn't mean that today, if you're an asshole, tomorrow you're not. You are.
Yep. Damn,
so,
I was trying to escape that.
Yeah, you can't run away from that one.
That's true. But what I look at is like every year I set up my convention circuit based on what I'm looking to achieve. You know, first year I did 36 shows because I wanted to get seen. The next time was I was starting to go to bigger shows when I wanted to expand my market. Now this next year I've gotten to the point that I want to do some things that I'm starting later in the year because I'm going to build it all up and then use the convention circuit to gain the fan base I need for what I'm going to do in 2024. So the shows are a combination of local shows, small market shows, and then huge shows. So I can get the grassroots people and then all the mega shows to be seen by
you have goals, but it's more like a marketing plan. Like you have an idea of what you want to do and you're like executing it, you know.
I don't like sit down and go like, well, this year I'm going to publish X number of books.
Yeah, right. Like I'm not the type that like I see myself here in 5 years. You know, I'm not that type either.
I mean, last year, like I said, my goals are certain things, and now I got hired by 2 different companies. Those were the goals. Like got seen, got hired. Now we move it on. What's the next thing?
Yeah, and, get more work, get seen more. Yeah, definitely.
Get paid, doing more work.
Yes. That's always huge. Johnny, definitely. Johnny, do you do that at all? Do you set resolutions and goals and all that?
Not really, but I think this year I might because I felt like the last year and a half I was running a marathon while holding all of my things. Like, have you ever tried running and holding multiple things at once? It's not
crazy,
fun.
Dude. I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, man. And I feel like I need to like put it all in a backpack and make it like there and handy. So I think one of my goals is just to like organize myself, get my shit together basically, and kind of pull it together and make it so that because I feel like I lost a little bit of my I can do it all kind of like motivation and I think I can recapture that a little bit and I think it just takes a little bit of regimenting and kind of organizing a little bit better and making sure my threads are all closed, like threads from the from prior projects and
like get rid of stuff that's hanging over your head,
right,
and then move on to other things. Yeah, I know, I feel that. Like much like you guys, like you three, I don't really actually make goals for myself like either. Like when New Year's comes, it's like I'm just like constantly trying to do stuff, like so it's like I probably should set some kind of like ending, like or end, something in my sights, but like to me it's just like produce, like I just want to keep producing, so I think this year, one thing I definitely am doing is pulling back a little bit on shows. Like I tend to do a lot of shows every year and not have enough time to actually produce. I could be producing more, and that's what I kind of want to do. So I'm like, I think I might pull back a little more on shows, do more 1-dayers, less 3 days, that kind of thing.
Notice a lot of my creative peers are further along with books, but don't really exhibit at conventions. And I've thought
there's got to be a balance there, though. I think like you need both because if you're producing and you're not getting the books out to anyone, then who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right. So,
but also like
to one of my buddies, one of the professional guys, and I'm trying to entice him into a few things, and then it's like, what do you want to go back to doing in a book and stuff, or doing something like of that nature? And he says, yeah, I just got to get paid, stuff like that. But I'm going like, yeah, because what I was telling him, like, but if you were to do that, you understand that you cannot be out every week at a show.
Yeah.
Because you would need downtime to actually get everything done and still be at shows. So it's like a give and take. Most of the reason I didn't do that many shows this year is because I had a lot more work to do, and it's like I needed the time to do them and setting it up. And and then I would. There was actually a few shows I was actually taking work to, which I don't like to do. You know, and it's like you're not there to do your work. You know, there was one show that was so bad it was actually good that I took work with me because it was.
I've done that at two. I've lettered at shows before, but you can't count on having that dead time either, though. That's the problem. Like, you know, like you'll be at a show and people come up to you like every 2 minutes, and you can't get anything done. So it's like, go ahead, Johnny.
I was just going to say that just kind of makes me think. It's like I once did I bring my laptop to a show thinking like, okay, maybe in some downtime I can get some writing in. It's like it's really, really hard.
Yeah, it's impossible
to concentrate on writing when there's so much going. Even at like work, like precious downtime minutes at work where you could be getting paid to be writing scripts. It's like I wish I could find that like concentration zone to be able to do that more often. Not to say I don't, but I feel like I could capitalize so much more free time if I took that downtime I had at my actual job to do the comic stuff.
Right,
but
right.
It's a little harder too. And I also feel like when I try, just because I'm juggling so much of my, my day job, it's like I get the ADHD stasis when it comes time to script and format and get into the creative headspace of putting words to a page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's true. And
and as a writer, Ari, I'm sure you probably experience that too, or you see that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite time to write is after the kids are in bed. So I do my most of my writing between 11 and 1.
Oh, wow.
And there's the thing is like this year I'm at home with it's the first year where I'm still on the childcare leave and I have the time while the kids are in school, and just trying to get myself to being able to write during the day instead of at night when they're at school, because I have a couple hours. I end up doing everything else during the day, laundry, shopping, cooking, all that, stuff that I'd be doing during the day. But to like change your headspace where you're used to being a night writer to being a day writer and middle of the day writer, it was actually really difficult for the first couple of months, like even to make that adjustment.
It's a huge adjustment, but also like if you're not prepared for it, like I think with writing, when you talk about getting in that headspace, it's like you like I often, like before I even write a script or even sit down with it, it's like I need to know it like inside and out. So I think about it for months, like whether it's outlining it or
see that's the thing is like I don't outline.
Okay, you go right into
I'm a pantser. I'm a straight pantser 100%. Except sometimes when I'm writing comics, I will sketch out the number of pages that I have because it's actually very different. In comics, you have to write to a certain multiple of pages or a certain amount of pages, whereas even I got hired to write something this year where they say you have X number of pages. You got to write, that's how many pages we're paying you for. You got to get the story done. I mean, not even the multiple.
Right. So you have to finally,
whereas if I'm writing a prose story or if I'm writing poetry, then there's, who cares if it's an extra 100 words or 100 words fewer or another, like however many pages is. They give you the ranges, like they want 1,000 to 5,000 words, a huge range. But, but I rarely outline at all of anything, but I do have to think about an idea for a long time. So like I have something that's due at the end of the year, basically at the end of the week, that I've been thinking about for 3 months. And when I sit down to write it, I'm going to write it straight through, but it's been running in my head, for a good long time before I can actually sit down and write it out.
Yeah, that's what I do. So like for me, it doesn't matter when I sit down, whether it's night or day, as long as I have the few months, just put it together in my head, like where everything's going and, that kind of thing.
I feel like the longer it lives in your head, the better off it could be when it finally hits paper.
Yeah.
As long as you're making sure you do document and you don't forget the discoveries you're making in the process.
Oh yeah.
Because like I can count a million times where I've said, "Oh, that's a great idea. I should put that down." Didn't do it, thinking like, "Oh, I'll just come back to it," and it's gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's also the good thing about deadlines, though. So when you have those deadlines, when you have that deadline from the publisher
on your iPhone,
you also,
too.
You got to get it done by that time.
Or else pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah.
Just hit that little microphone button on your phone, Johnny, and put it right in your notes section. That's what I do a lot. And then also, like, I recommend too, like, getting ideas and just thinking about stories is like take drives.
Just carry around. carry around your
when
little
you drive
notebook and your pen.
somewhere, like if you're going to work or something, don't listen to radio. Just like sit there with your thoughts. It's almost like because it's like almost being in a trance, they say, because you drive and you're just like you're almost on automatic pilot, but your mind is like
Well, like that happens to me in the shower. It's like if I'm in the shower or doing dishes or something like that, you're in this zen-like state where like you can really explore and think about your ideas and your prospects and things of that nature.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. Like, so that's I guess the creative thing about the deep thoughts about writing.
Yeah. But what about you, Kike, on the artist side of things?
He's doing a little writing now too.
Are you doing a little bit of writing?
I'm actually part of what I'm thinking about doing by 2024 is that I might be foregoing a lot of more of my art and moving towards the writing, which is what I've always wanted to do. A few years ago when I spoke with Rum March and the guys from Humanoids, and they were telling them, and they're saying like, yeah, like you're inking, I was like, yeah, but I'm using it to like try to get into a writing gig, like Jim Palmiotti did. He says like, don't do that, man. Just write it. Just do your own writing. Submit writing stuff. Don't worry about trying to get in through the art side. I mean, unless you're planning on doing your own book, which is what I'm ending.
That's good advice, actually. Like, because I don't know a lot of people that do it that way, or I've heard about,
Yeah, and it's one of those things I thought, let me try it this way. And the thing is that the opportunities have shown up for me doing the anthology. So I end up actually like the last few I've done, I'm actually contributing just the writing part. I'm not really drawing much into it. One that's coming up next year, the Not So Fair Tales 2, I am inking that one and I am coloring that one. But the one that on my most recent project, I'm just writing in that one.
So are you trying to move fully into writing and just kind of leave the artwork behind?
Yeah, I'm not going to leave it all completely behind because it's still, let's face it, it's a lot easier to be a sketch artist at a convention than just a writer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I mean, at that moment, I've done things that I can get a little $5 for doing a little story for somebody and stuff like that. But the reality is, if I can show people I can draw while I'm also being a writer, it's like, hey, it's the double whammy. So
yeah, right.
Either way, So I got to keep it still there. But the thing is that I've always been a writer from the very beginning, and talking about gestating an idea, the story that's in Might Magic Monsters in Law, that's the Kickstarter I'm running now, was actually a universe I gestated in 1982.
Wow.
Long it's taken.
So you really spent a lot of time with that story in your head.
It took me a while to get there. But the thing is that we could have a whole show about this, just talking about how it's different when you're 16 and you're writing this whole concept to now in my 50s with 2 daughters, married, through life, and now when I went back to the stories, I go like, well, now I got to change this, now.
Well, you've had some life experience, you have a different perspective on the story now.
There's less optimism, maybe, like you're more jaded, right?
Well, it's more like understanding to be like as a 16-year-old, you got to understand back in the 70s and stuff in the 80s, what was our reading, what were we looking at in the comic books? That has changed a lot over the years. And having daughters who are super brilliant, women in their own right, is giving me a perspective, like the females in my stories don't have to be in distress. They don't have to be weak. They don't have to be that. So though they never were just that, one of the characters in the story is actually a warrior. So I was a little bit in that, I did see some good stuff at that time, but so it's always like, yeah, my experiences have changed some perspective because some of the stuff behind that was like my own personal experiences, relationship with my father and how that's affected me and what I was writing about. And now that we're both at this point in our lives, and he's starting to lose his mind a little bit, unfortunately. Yeah. It's giving me a different perspective and say, maybe I shouldn't go so hard on that part of that story anymore. So that's what I mean. So longer sometimes you take with something, you never know. And
it changes, it morphs,
it just morphs, and it's just, I'm just looking forward to what I'm going to be doing now with that.
Yeah, see, I love hearing that though, Kike, because it's basically, I always advocate that you keep an open, creative heart. And, a lot of people get so married to an idea that they can't even fathom changing it. And like you said, like where you were able to have that self-discovery of like, oh, I've got this story angle that now that I've seen real life changes and implications on things, that allowed you to be able to make the discovery to see that creatively you can do something different. That is awesome. That's just really cool that you were able to kind of make that connection and let that influence you in that manner.
And I'm just hope to be a better writer, a better storyteller, in the sense of the idea is still there, the concepts are still there, but the thing is that now I believe it could be better executed.
Yeah,
all
the characters can change. Yeah, definitely.
It makes it more real. It makes it more genuine. And I think that shows when you're a reader reading something that was written that way, you can feel that too. You know what I mean? I love that. I love when a creator can discover that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, for example, I got one of the stories I'm working on for something in 2024 is a sci-fi story that I wrote also in the 80s and in college. And I'm looking at it now and go like, well, this was written before there were fax machines. So now I look at it and I go like, well, now I see how I was looking at this thing, like now I got to jump it like 100 years, even further than before, because now everything's like, everybody's going around with these little things that go small. So now the character, what kind of uniform is he going to have? It used to be this way. Now I got to think of it this other way. Nanotechnology and this stuff. So it's like, it's a constantly upgrading of what you're doing and looking at it. The stories, but the way is that if the essence of the story still is going to be there, because it's still a story of whatever I'm thinking about doing. What I'm doing is just improving the background. It's like all the elements in the universe and that of the environment where the story is taking place will be upgraded, but the story will still remain the same. That's basically the way I'm looking at it.
Gotcha.
There's
Robert Brick. You said before there was AI. Yeah.
I feel like artists and creative types right now are playing their own Skynet battle in real time.
They're playing what?
Well, I feel like artists and creative types are fighting their own real life Skynet battle between AI art and their work right now, like in real time.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna say something real quick. There was a Facebook post a moment of this product they were putting out of some kind of, I think it was a record or something. I don't remember what it was. But as soon as I saw the artwork, I was like, AI. I knew immediately I could pick it out. I'm like, that has that unfinished look and stuff like that. I go like, somebody sat around like, let's put a little prompt in there, get this for free. So basically that's what they're doing. And it's a shame that you're seeing some of that happen. Eventually they're writing, it used to be like you put in like 10 monkeys in a with typewriters, eventually they'll write the Hamlet. So now you're getting this computer programs that can write, though they've been around, and stuff like that. And now you're going to have the artwork and stuff.
I see people trying to take advantage of that and like make a comic. And where I think it's going to be a problem is at conventions. You're going to see print guys trying to sell prints of AI, and things like that. That's where I think it'll be very problematic.
Yeah. Because it's not their artwork, or is it? I mean, it's so weird to debate it, because technically, because you put the prompts in, does that consider it your artwork? Well, yes or no. You know what I mean? Like, thought of it, but
a lot of it depends on where they're getting the art from, right? Are they actually getting someone else's art, or is the program smart enough to learn from it? Like,
that's where it's
that's where, and is it is it advanced enough? And if it's not, it will be eventually, right? I mean,
Dr. Mass said last thing he saw they couldn't copyright.
Right, there was a thing. The guy lost his copyright to that AI comic that he put out.
I know. Robert's right. This topic is an entire show. Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
about it.
We might want to shut this one down before it gets out of control.
Yeah. I saw some battles on Twitter about it these last couple of weeks, and Harry's right. This is exactly what's wrong.
But I'll tell you this. When I was designing the characters for the story, we're going to talk about later about the magic, I did use AI. Okay, for one reason, I did it because I said it'll be quicker to get the night, because what I was trying to do was created an idea of design so I could give it to the actual artist as a writer. Look, this is what I'm thinking. This is what is written. He said it was a good enough description with that, but I said, let me try something to see if I can do. And I wanted to mesh a human with this animal to get this look. Okay. And then it came out in such ways. I'm like, well, that doesn't look right. But then I did a few changes in the prompts, and then it worked. And then I said, let me do this for the female character and see if something comes up. And I said, they were all pretty decent. So what I ended up doing was going to Photoshop, grabbing parts of all the images, and then putting it together in a mismatch. So this is what I look. And when I sent it to Joe, he was like, man, these are really cool. I said, time out. I didn't do it. These are AI. This is for you to have. I want you to create it down and go from there. But the idea is somebody else going to say, yeah, man, look how good I did it. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's where, and I think you'll probably be pretty able to, you'll probably be able to spot it really easily, I think, going forward, but I don't know.
The difference with working with an artist and then working with AI art is that AI art completely depends upon your input. Where Kike even said, I had to change the prompts to get exactly what I wanted. Whereas if you're working with an artist, somebody who's knowledgeable, a human being who could push back and verbally say to you, no, think about it like this way. You're not getting that response from an AI. You're not getting the human, like Harry said, imagination or skill set of that trained individual to see the things that you don't as a writer.
Right.
And the other thing is, you wouldn't be able to do a book like the one we're going to talk about that we did with AI, like the one that when Marika drew. I'm old school with it. I'm a big fan of traditional art. I love the way, she did it all. She did pencil.
Marika's awesome too.
Pen and ink for the most part, and then she does some digital, stuff after it's drawn. But for a lot of it it has that old traditional look about it.
Yeah,
you can't do that. And also I guess we'll talk about it later when we talk about the book. But it was much more open ended than a comic usually is because of the nature of the book, where she had more freedom to draw. And I wouldn't want to give that up, because I think that what came out of it, what she drew, is amazing, and it wouldn't have come out like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
People's art styles are a signature unto themselves.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree. AI, it doesn't, Harry said meshing animals and people sounds like Manimal or Zubili.
Hey, I'll fuck with some Zubili too.
And Manimal, I remember that.
Yeah. Or the High Evolutionary from
That's great. So speaking of that, though, we should take a look at it, because we've been going 50 minutes. So I definitely want to take a look at both of your projects.
Let's fire it up.
Yeah, I got Kike's artwork here queued up. Let me
hand drawn, not created by AI, correct?
Yes.
That's right.
This is
all digitally. He does most of his work digitally, which helps in going in there and picking it apart if I needed to. This is from Joe Critelli Jr. He is he's more of a cartoonist. All right, so
yeah, it's great.
So he had not had a lot of experience working panel work. So I wanted to give him an opportunity to expand on this. I have, and then my letterer is always Carlos Mangual. He does all the stuff for DC and Aftershock. So
Cool.
I'm very fortunate to have his professionalism here.
Or Aftershock, rest in peace.
And,
I heard they're pretty much done, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a damn shame because it was good company. Apparently,
good imprint,
because they weren't paying anybody. But anyway,
you can't do that, you know.
But this is called "The Whisper in the Wind." It's like I said, this is a story which is in the universe I created in 1980s. This is Princess Lorraine, and it's we get to see. I wanted to get a little bit in the story about this. She is part of this people that live in the Rhine territory. It's part of this whole area called Gallon, and so we're going to see a lot of that with her there. Now, over here, that one is actually from another anthology.
I'm jumping all around. Let me just go back to this one first.
Yeah, you could jump to. Let me see. The next page is around there. You could go down to the fifth one.
Is this
no, one more. That one.
Yeah,
there you go. So basically, it's jumping. You jumped a page there, but it's not a problem. This is the character I was talking about. It's a combination of like a ram and a human. There he is.
Okay.
We were trying to get that look in there because his name is Totem, and he's from a race of people that can actually morph between human and animal. And this is
cool.
a person.
Oh, cool.
So, and he's basically her mentor, and he's teaching her fighting skills along with being her bodyguard. So it's basically a story of of history, of the traditions. We talk about how he is a nomad, so they couldn't take their history with them. So they're all tattooed on themselves because they write their history on their bodies. So anytime they go anywhere, they're constantly tattooing themselves. So she has a tattoo is already going to be seen here and they talk about all that. And then at the very end of the story, the big deal is that the character that is the main focus of the stories is making an appearance at the end. So anybody who gets this comic will actually end up having the first appearance of this character.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And so this is actually a story that doesn't go in. It follows kind of into the line of what we're doing because he comes up at the end because he's there to help with the situation that the kingdom is going through. And then at the end of that story, it's going to be lead into a graphic novel. Hopefully that'll be out in 2024, 25. So where's the main story, which is the main story.
So this is for for which anthology?
That's for Might, Magic, and Monsters in Law.
Gotcha.
It's from Alan Bay. He is the curator of it. It's from he's in Singapore, which is interesting how we worked this out. But and it's one of those things that he was looking for people, and I joined in, and I was able to bring in Joe, and Joe did everything. I mean, he did all the drawing, all the inking, all the coloring. The problem is that when I wrote the story, I actually wrote it like our buddy here. I wrote it in prose, so I sent it to him like, "This is what I want to see in there." I didn't break it down into per panel. I have worked with people who want that. They say, "I need to know what panel 1 is going to be, what panel 2 is going to be, how you want it." But most of the guys I work with actually prefer this format that I give them. This is what I want to see the Marvel way, basically. Give them the essence of what the story is, and we go from there. And then, fortunately, we didn't have enough pages for everything I wanted. So he had to cut out some stuff that really hurt. And so hopefully when I eventually do an expanded version, which will include a little bit more details of the history of his people and stuff. But just 10 pages was just not enough.
Gotcha.
Everything in there. And there were a few things we could have made a little easier, made the panels a little bit tighter, and maybe gotten a little extra page work in there. But it's things that we learned. It's a learning experience. It's a great story, 10 pages. I've had already people, Timothy Fling read it, DC Alonso has read it, Gary Galisi has read it, and they all like praising it a lot, and I'm like super happy.
That's really cool.
That is really cool.
And it's like I said, it's very colorful. It's very nice. I believe they've given me the final plot of the book. I'm the last story, I think. So
Gotcha.
I'm closing the book, I think. So
Very cool.
it's just what I want to do. And on the cover, she's right in the center. So I'm really happy with it. So hopefully this will expand into much more. The Kickstarter right now, we're at 88, almost 90%.
Nice.
I think we have about 12 days left. Let me see. Where are we? Over here. Projects. We actually have 18 days, actually.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I think
You guys will get there no problem.
So you'll hit that no problem.
You're probably in that middle slump right now, which is natural for every campaign. You get that boost at the end, and it'll put you guys right on.
Let's send out that everybody who's like waiting on, who did like love, like notify me when it's coming out. So I believe we're going to get it. This show will help boost it up a bit, and
of course,
and it'll be there. I know it will be. So. I'm just looking forward to having it out there.
And you'll have a lot of activity towards the end too,
Got a few copies with me at shows and stuff. So, and like I said, this is just the latest one. Joe also helped me with the Stupid Kids one, which that one, unfortunately, will not get funded. We're only 3 days. I think we only got 3 days left, and we're only at 32%. So that one is unfortunately.
Okay.
We'll have to. I've spoken to Jeff Weaver, and we're gonna reassess. I think the timing was a little tight. Christmas time, it was an aggressive.
Yeah, it's tough at Christmas to try to get something going.
It was an aggressive funding limit that he wanted, and it's one of those things that sometimes you got to evaluate. Like, well, is it better to put a low number like 2,000, 1,000, so you get there quick, so you can move it up quick enough in percentage that you get the Kickstarter projects we love icon really quick, and for that'll put you in a better place, because that's what happened with us with the Mighty Magic. He put it at a really decent number, and we got up really quick. That was enough to get out. Kickstarter gave us the project we love really quick, so that helped. It put us on
such a game too. Like it's a lot of pre-prep, with a Kickstarter. A lot of
and unfortunately, Stupid Kids, we did it. It was like I went live before I was even ready. I usually I was talking to you to try to get, because originally Stupid Kids I was going to put it on this show and talk about that one and another project. Well, the other project got held back because the current, even though it got funded now, the next part the guy wants to reassess because he lost half of his back from the first one. And he was like, what happened? It's like, I think it's probably the winter time, the economy, it was Christmas.
This year is tough for campaigns.
Look, sometimes, and we could go, this could be another
whole show, yeah.
The whole thing is that he did the Kickstarter when I was at C2E2 in December of last year, and he fulfilled it in August. And then launched a new campaign in December. So I was like, it took to August because of all the problems that you know about, all the printing issues and everything going on. So it was like, maybe it was too long. The people got tired. By the time they got it, it was like, oh, it's here. Then another one now. I was like, I just got this one. Could this one take another year?
Yeah. Yeah, so, exactly. You get backer fatigue, Yeah,
and it's a good project, but it's one of those things that you go like, what's going to happen? So I don't know. So I'm really hoping that people, you can go to my link tree and you can see there, it has a nice little, you can click it right into it. It'll take you to any of the Kickstarters that are running now.
Yeah. You want to throw that link tree in the private comments? I'll share it out too.
All right. And like I said, it's, you can also go in there. There's still a few of the older Kickstarters. I like to leave them in there. You can go to my pages and actually see the stories I wrote in them. For free, so you can actually see some of the old stories, anthologies. If you want actual copies, you can find them on me at the shows. But so like I said, that one, it didn't go. Stupid Kids didn't go as well as we wanted, but so we ended up now another one that was going to be launching in February which was Not So Fair Tales 2. We're moving it now towards the summer to June. But that one I'm working. I sent you some pictures of that. That one I wrote it, I'm inking it, and I'm coloring it. And it was drawn by my buddy Benjamin Chase. He does Sheath Comics. He runs that. He's got his own comic book line, and he recently did a Kickstarter that we did. I did the cover for. It was called Blade Shot, and it went insane. We got like almost 700 backers for that one.
Wow,
it was insane. For a brand new, we were like, whoa. So I was really happy to have him on the book, and that one we're taking for Not So Fair Tales. We're doing fables this year. Last year we did fairy tales. This year we're doing fables, and my story is based off the fable called The Pitcher and the Crow, which, if you know the fable, is this: the crow is dying of thirst, and it can't reach with its beak into the water in this pitcher, so he ends up finding these pebbles, putting it into the pitcher until the water rises and he can drink it. Well, in my story, it's a little twist on that, in that we got a big planet, it's a sci-fi story, and somebody falls into a big ass pit, and his oxygen is running out. So pretty much, and I only have 10 pages to write that one too.
Well, that's the problem with anthologies, right? They're like great. They're good, but they're also
very limited. I think it was Mark. This is Mark Twain said, "I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one instead."
Yeah. Well, it teaches you to be brief, you know.
Like and it worked. It worked. I mean, the one for Stupid Kid was actually only 2 pages. You know, I actually got myself into a moment. Let me just do a really tight one. So that one is actually. I also did the style with giving Benjamin. Look, this is what I want on page 1, page 2, page 3. Play it out however you want. And he came out with some incredibly great ideas as to formatting, how to put the panels in and stuff that and I gave him some ideas. Here, do this like this, and it flows really, really well. Okay. And then I was looking at the fact that I had to color it, and I'm like, oh boy, God, I got to color. I'm not a colorist, you know. And so I thought, well, let me just go with this idea, and I started just filling in the background of the landscape with super palette. And my daughter looks at it and go like, oh, so you're doing monochromatic. That's a pretty cool idea. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Well, I ended up showing it to the editors and the guys who are running the show, which is John Enfield and Ryan Krabath. I actually printed out the pages with just that coloring on, and at book size, so they could actually see it at a show we were together. And I went to them, what do you think? And they were looking at, well, is that the way the colors are going to be? And I'm like, yeah. Well, they look cool, man. Okay. All right, so I guess we're keeping it. So I'm at it now. I'm going back in and doing some digital inks and playing with some details, with some, like, because I have all these different pens I can create debris and stuff like that, and textures and stuff. So a little cheating, like a little cheating, like I gotta call it. So because I inked it traditional. I inked it traditional, and I really believe it was my best work when you see it on the page. But once you go into the nitty gritty, like I was doing, I was like, man, I gotta fix that. And I gotta remember that it goes smaller. So I keep adding too much details a little, and you don't see them.
Right.
No, that's awesome.
At the point that I gotta abandon it because I keep adding stuff to it.
Don't George Lucas it.
Yeah, you got to stop at some point.
Yeah.
You got to finish.
I'm at page 9 right now, so I only got 2 more pages to go. And the last page doesn't have a lot of stuff I got to worry about. But the thing is that once I started putting the coloring, then I needed to re-ink over some of it, so it will keep standing out over the colors. Otherwise, it would look too pale. So I'm actually doing a lot of work on it. So, but that will be coming out hopefully in June of 2023. So
awesome.
Oh, cool.
And and Ari, let's take a look. You got the new novel, right?
It's a collection of
poems,
flash fiction and poetry fully illustrated. So it's a little different from a traditional comic book. And it's something that I started 2 years ago with Marika Bruciano, who I know Johnny knows her.
Yes.
Some of you may know her as well. And it was an idea. I don't know if either of you guys know Gene Hoyle down in Florida. He's big in the he was actually having a lot of health problems, but he was a big guy on Facebook a few years ago in the indie comics community. But he had this idea. He had an idea a couple years ago that why shouldn't writers be able to get involved in Inktober as well? So you got every October you have the artists and they post something every day, or they try to keep up and post something every day, and they got all this great interaction on social media, and everyone sees all of their posts and everything. And they and writers, we have next month NaNoWriMo, right? People write, oh, I hit my word count today, I need 3,000 to get to 50, and it's just not as interesting in terms of interacting with people. So and that's something we'll come back to a bunch of times in this book. So the idea is you get a writer and an artist together, and you write something. You might have to do it in advance. They have time to do the process. Instead of following the prompts, they illustrate either a panel a day or a page a day or something each day, and you both post it, right? Because it's a collaboration like you would have during comics. So the first year I did it, it didn't really work out. I got paired with an artist I didn't know before. We had no previous relationship. It was just something like, hey, we're both in the group of people who wanted to do it, and it kind of fizzled out. It didn't work. But I remember the idea for the next year, and I had worked with Marika before. We had done a short comic got published in a literary magazine a couple of years ago, but 2018 or so, something like that. And I saw the style of work that she was doing on her Instagram around that time. She was doing a lot of pen and ink drawing, and I was like, this stuff is really cool. I want to work with her again. I want her to do these full page illustrations, pen and ink, and it's all gothic horror stuff. And the mode Into That Darkness Peering is actually a quote from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, and everything's kind of in that gothic horror style in this book, which is perfect for Marika. She's really into that. She's very into that gothic scene as well. So every day, we would do a poem or a little flash fiction, and she would do a full page illustration in the style of, in that style that she was doing, and we would both post it. And we liked it so much that we decided to expand it into a book. And so the next year, which was last year, for this October, for Halloween season, we put together this book. It's a collection of, we divided it into 5 sections, all based around Edgar Allan Poe quotes. And then every poem or short story in it every page is a poem or short story by me and an illustration by her on the same page. So do you have this folder of the sample art in there? Because you'll be able to see the whole. You'll be able to see. No, that's the PDF sample pages. Yeah, sample pages, because you'll be able to see the whole thing. Yeah. So you put up something like that. There we go.
I love Marika's art too. It's just
she's really good.
And she's so good.
Yeah, and then she is. She's amazing. And the thing is, like, every one of these, it both stands alone, but it also works as an entire collection together. And I remember I showed you these when they were in progress, Johnny, a couple of years ago at New York Comic Con.
That's right. At the pub.
At the pub, right, at Twins, which is actually where I first met Marika a number of years ago, right? Was at an event like that. And the thing is, like what Kike was talking about earlier, you're a writer, right? You want people to buy the books. It's harder at a convention to get people to come and flip through your books than you're next to a guy who has a tower of art. I know that we've all experienced that. So one of the things we did with this book was that any of the pages, since they could stand alone, we chose 10 of them that we're going to be able to eventually make into prints as well. So that way at my table, I not only can have my books, I could have prints of some of the pages in the book as well, which will at least be a visual draw to bring people to my table to see both this book and the other stuff that I have. And because I'm a writer and I'm not as technically proficient as some of the artists are, we chose to do it in this larger format. And I say it's like an A4 style, which is European size. But the reason we chose that was because you can size it up, size it down. It can go to A5 or A3. You can make a really big poster, and it doesn't change the aspect ratio at all because of the way the European pages work.
The detail on like just,
amazing.
Yeah,
she's really good, and it fits, and they really fit well with the poems together. Like people who have read the book, all the reviews, the people who have read the book, they talk about how well the words and the pictures go together and how they play off each other. So this was a little flash fiction that I had. This is the opening page in the book, and this is one of my favorite illustrations that she did.
Yeah, I'd say it's out of the ones I've seen, this is probably the best one, I think.
And
the cover of the book, I think.
And she, so this was published actually twice. It was published in an anthology, and then it was picked up by a podcast who did just that little thing, a little flash fiction podcast, and then it gets reissued in the collection with all of the other ones. I'd say about a third of them the words have been published before. All of the art is new except for the ones that were part of the Inktober before. And it's just, it's very different, right? It's a different thing. It's something that you're not going to see. And it bridges a lot of the different things I do because I write poetry. I write short fiction. I write science fiction and fantasy. I do comics. So this like straddles a lot of those different areas, a lot of those different mediums in which I work, and it can bring together some of these. Like I could come on a comic show and do this. The last thing that I did last week, I did a poetry reading where I was the feature poet, and I was pushing. You do that when you have a new book too. So it like takes from a lot of different pools and a lot of the different audiences I have, and maybe tries to bring them together.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
is why it was, why it was important for me to have it on Amazon and not necessarily just on a Kickstarter or something like that, because it needed to be something that everyone had access to,
right.
across the different audiences that I was trying to reach.
Nothing with a time limit, nothing with a goal. Just you put it out there. That way it's just accessible to everybody. Because really, like you said, it does transcend just the comics medium. It's, for lack of a better description, an Ari Rubin mixtape.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Some of the things. Yeah, I mean, if you read the story I had in a Hoyer couple back in November, it has nothing. That's completely different. That's a bunch of cheese puns strung together. But that actually backed up a Mark Russell story. I was really happy about that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and back, in Ahoy, they have those prose stories in the back of the book. So I had one in the back of Billionaire Island back in November. But yeah, so different. But yeah, in terms of the Gothic horror stuff, it shows off a lot of different things. It works out great with Marika. And again, like people, and it's thing. Like I could post a sample page, and like people read. You can see it. You can get what it is very quickly. And then, decide that you want to have the book, have the whole collection. A nice big book, looks great on your coffee table. We came out with
beautiful cover.
Yeah, beautiful cover, beautiful interior art. I should say that the book design was done by Dee Alley, who I know from comic book school. You guys know her. She did the anthologies there.
Yeah, did she come on the show, I think?
She did when we were doing the anthology. So, you have the black page on one side with the title.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty big book. I mean, you holding it there, dude, like that gives you good perspective of how big of a book that is right there.
Yeah,
it's a nice size. It looks good. It's the kind of thing you want to have out. It's the kind of thing you want to have displayed. It's the other thing is, like, we came out within October, late September, because I was trying to make New York Comic Con, and then we had basically wanted an October release because obviously it's thematically appropriate for Halloween. It's always nice to have a book that'll do well every, New York Comic Con's our big show. And, it's in October. And people are looking for Halloween stuff. It's like, it's kind of
It looks really good on the coffee table next to the decorative basket of pine cones.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, right.
Next to your skull, next to your skull of your
It's the aesthetic
raven
well.
and all of your vampires and bats, for that 1 month a year. But actually, if you look at it, like traditionally, winter is the time of ghost stories. Like, we've kind of lost that a little bit in this country, but like A Christmas Carol and all of that was part of a longer tradition. It goes way back. It's mentioned in Shakespeare that during the short winter, cold nights, that's when most of the Gothic horror, traditionally in English, takes place. Yeah, Shel Silverstein. Yeah, I see that.
I can see that.
Yeah. I can see it because of the black and white illustrated poems, that kind of thing. The way the words and pictures are on the same page together, but it's different thematically than the Shel Silverstein book, because this is more 19th century Gothic horror type. I mean, much more in the style of Poe or Coleridge or someone of that nature.
Shel Silverstein, if he's like listening to like just like some hardcore My Chemical Romance nonstop, just emoing out really hard.
Johnny,
and I love Shel Silverstein, but
no disrespect.
No disrespect.
Johnny or Enrique, would you guys ever, as a writer, want to do something in this style, like almost like an illustrated book?
I've actually been working on something very similar.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that it basically because of what he was saying, that as writers we don't have that Inktober. I do, since I'm primarily an inker, I participate in Inktober. So I always figure that, well, I'm doing this creature that's really cool, but my writer side is saying there's a story here. So I was thinking about doing something very similar to what he was doing, like one page have a story and one other page have the illustration on, and then move that along. So I'm actually working on that for maybe next year. So instead of have it out by then, and we will see.
Nice. Yeah. How about you, John? Did you ever think about?
I'll be illustrating them myself. So
yeah, right.
We'll see but she was great. I mean, her artwork is kick-ass.
She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. She's it's had a second time I've worked on a project with her, and she's nothing but great things to say about her. She's unbelievable, and it's also nice when you find an artist that you really mesh with like that, so that the words, it was and it's perfect for this project. Like she was the perfect artist for this. I couldn't find a better artist for this type of project.
Her and her fiance Keith Grasmick, wildly professional, just very good, super talented. Her fiance did the Surrounded by Death short.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And she's professionally trained, and she has an art, and you could tell, like people can tell that she's technically very, very good technically, in addition, to the creative artistic side, and she teaches art as well. They said couldn't speak more highly of her.
Very talented. Yep, very talented, both of them.
Johnny, I was trying to ask if you ever had aspirations to do something like this.
Not offhand where like I've had anything like I've thought of in the past, but I kind of like sway with the creative wind of however I feel. So like if something,
so you wouldn't take it off the table.
No, I wouldn't take it off the table, but I'd have to be inspired to do that. Like I'd have to have my muse speaking to me directly. Otherwise, I'm really uninterested in the project unless it's something that sparks within me. So
I'd have to say I feel the same way. Like I don't have anything that I'm thinking about doing that way, or in this style, but I wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah, and I love that Ari can do that. You do so much, man. Like you can work in so many different mediums. It's fantastic.
Well, I think about it. Like I think I've told you guys the last time I was on the show, you asked me about inspirations and things like that, and I always say Neil Gaiman because, again, like when he wants to write a comic, writes a comic. Wants to write a novel, the novel. He does TV. He does theater. He does poetry. He does everything. Like that's the that's the kind of writer that I aspire to be. Right. And that's the thing. Is like when I think about writing a comic. I'm writing a comic short story now, and I'm thinking about what makes this have to be a comic as opposed to a short story. Because, sometimes you read them and you're like, people write these because they're comics writers and they write it, but there's no particular reason why it had to be a comic as opposed to something else, but that's the medium that they're familiar with writing it. Whereas other times you'll read something and you'd say, this couldn't be anything else but a comic. This is not your film treatment that you're hoping to be made into a movie one day, like many comics are. This is not something that could have been a prose short story that you decided to do as a comic for whatever reason that you've decided to do it. What makes this something that has to be like this? What does the comics medium add to it? Why is that the best way to tell the story as opposed to a different way to tell the story? And honestly, as someone who writes in a variety of mediums, there needs to be a good answer for that question for me to write it as a comic. Because if I'm hiring someone and paying them a page rate, right, as opposed to writing a short story myself and having someone pay me to send it to a market that's going to pay me, or even, there needs to be a reason why it has to be a comic, for me to write it as one, as opposed to writing it, a different way. And there are some stories that I have, and that's how I got started in comics. I was trying to write a story. The one Johnny read, the Night Stalker story that I was trying to write it as a prose novel, and it wasn't working. And I was saying, why isn't it working? I was like, why it's not working? Because it's not a prose novel. It's a graphic novel. It's a comic. So, these types of things, each medium has its own advantages and disadvantages in terms of storytelling. And each story has its medium that it should be told in, right? It should be told in this way to bring the story presented in the best light, or to make it work the way that it needs to work. That's a really important, like we were talking before about when you're thinking of ideas, that's after the idea's been sitting for a while. You get the idea,
and you see where it's going to work.
It's going to be thing, and then part of that process for me is deciding: is this a comic? Is this a poem? The narrative poem? Is this a short story? Is this a novel, a novella, whatever it is? And that's a big part of my pre-writing before I decide to sit down. And then is this something like this that's somewhere in between, right? Because there's all sorts of things. Because once you're in those different mediums, then you could take the best aspects of each of them and kind of mix them up, combine them together. I'm working on something for next year that's like a picture book for adults, like, like Go the Fuck to Sleep, like that type of thing. It's called The Awful Alphabet, which is essentially like
that's going to be great.
That's fun.
And I'm working with an artist. And we're going to start it in February. I have it written, but we have it on the schedule to start in February, and that, kind of had to work as a children's book for adults.
Right.
So I'm writing a comic story now where there's parallel worlds, and I'm kind of doing it off of a 6-panel grid with some facing, because one side 3 pages, and the other side of the page, the left side of the page is one world, and like the parallel event is happening concurrently on the right side of the page, except for a couple of times where it goes 5 panels and it comes together, or on the spread pages where they interact. But that couldn't really be anything else but a comic, because it would be confusing to do in that way. Like there's something that's added to it by being a comic.
Yeah,
that
you need that
show the action visually simultaneously
visual storytelling
through
element.
that. Right, there's a visual element that's essential to that story that wouldn't be. You wouldn't do that, like even as an illustrated book, even like Stardust or something, like the way Neil Gaiman and Charles Vest did start. You wouldn't do it that way, right? It has to be a comic with the panels.
Right.
I like to point to like poorly adapted comic book movies.
Yeah.
As like, and the one I'd like to point to specifically is the Spawn movie. There's a reason why Spawn works so well as a comic, with the flowing alive cape and
that's true.
The clown villain, like those things work so much better on the page than they do in live action, as that movie is a good example of.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, looks like we're just about at 90 minutes, so I'm going to start wrapping
Flies
up.
right by.
It's crazy, right? How it goes by so quick. Usually at this point, we go around the room. If you guys want to talk about, like, you know, Enrique, if there's anything we didn't talk about that you want to mention, any plugs, any links, you know, you want to throw out?
Socials.
Well, you can see my link tree here on my panel. That's the easiest way to find all my socials are there.
All right, I'm gonna share it out right now.
You can click
Yep,
there.
you can find that in the comments.
Facebook, my online portfolio, everything, you'll find it through there. Where the latest Kickstarters are. Thinking about maybe doing a Patreon next year as well. So we'll see if that goes. But everything you can get me is there. The easiest way you can find my Facebook, social, my Instagram. I don't do Twitter. Don't do that crap. I tried to do the Hive. And I got locked out. I could never use my account. So yeah, it was really weird. It just never worked. But so anyway, the easiest way to reach me is through those links there. If you're anywhere, like I do a lot of East Coast, Midwest conventions, so I'll be at some of the major ones. Hopefully, I'll be at C2E2. I'm going to be at Cincinnati next year. Cincinnati, I do every other year. Cincinnati Comic Expo. I'll be doing Terrificon, New York Comic Con, and then I'll be doing other stuff like Heroes and nice. and I'm doing smaller ones like Phillipsburg, Forest Hills, Trenton, etc. Three Rivers. So I'll be out there. You can on the link tree, you will find my schedule is there. So if I'm anywhere in your area, please come by. Like I said, I should have copies of the Might Magic book with me once I start the convention, probably by June. We should be here. That's Singapore. We'll see how quickly that gets printed up. So
gotcha.
But awesome. Hopefully you'll find it there. And the link tree is the best way to find them for the latest Kickstarters of mine. I always put a link in there so you can get them. Like I said, I'm also the inker for Power Comics, which is a group of professional legends, and I don't even know why I'm in there. We have people like Darryl Banks, Bob Alden, Bumblecler, Keith Williams, Darryl Banks, Mike Grell, Joe Rubenstein. All these guys are working on these comic books in there, and then you got me. So
that's awesome. Good company to be with, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, Ari? Anywhere where can people find you?
At the Surreal Ari, you can find me pretty much any platform I'm on.
Oh, okay.
It's more now: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Mastodon, Hive, whatever the new next one's going to be that comes in there. It's all at the Surreal Ari. I also put my flow code in there before. You can get my website. You can get my Amazon page.
Yeah, let me throw that in there.
You want to get Into That Darkness Peering. Get that on Amazon. We actually have a hardcover on Lulu as well. But mainly on Amazon. Get the paperback. The ebook is on Amazon too. If you're into eBay, if you're on Kindle Unlimited, it's free. Like anything else that's on Kindle Unlimited. You also, like I said, I had a couple of stories come out in the back of Ahoy Books this year. I'm just proud to get into that. One of the last one was in November, backing up Mark Russell's Billionaire Island #1. Hoping to do more stuff with them next year. And I'm also an editor with Comic Book School with Buddy Scalera, which is a great organization, free educational resources, panels that he does all the educational professional track panels at New York Comic Con and certain other shows around. Awesome. And that's honestly, like I said, I met a lot of these guys through his Creator Connections panels that he does there. So I always want to give him a plug as well. I also edited his 2 anthologies. We may have a new one coming out or starting soon for people who want to get involved, get a comic published with some educational feedback. I have a couple projects lined up for next year, a couple which I can't talk about, but they'll be out soon. But yeah, anywhere at the Surreal Ari. My website, www.aarubin.com, is the only one that's not at the Surreal Ari. You'll be able to find me, all the different stuff that I do: prose, comics, poetry, science fiction, fantasy, literary fiction, the whole 9 yards. Yep, the Red Sox hat. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, Johnny knows about that. My dad was a Red Sox fan. He moved to New York for college, and he stayed. And I was a Red Sox fan before I could talk. Not the best time to be a Red Sox fan right now. Not exactly a high point.
But what can you do?
This offseason has not been going well at all, but I guess you can't complain after the last,
Boston had its championship a few years ago.
Good year so far for the Celtics, though. So
yes, that's true.
Doing well there.
How about you, Johnny? Anything to shout out this week? Anything you want to mention?
I just really want to take the time to thank Kike and Ari for taking the time to come on the show and promote yourself, talk about your work, and sharing your craft with all of us. Make sure people get out there and back Might, Magic, and Monster and Laws. Go to Amazon, check out Into the Darkness Peering. Just support indie comics and indie creative output.
Yep, I agree with you on that. I also like to thank both of you guys for joining us. And if you once you get the book, once you get back Kike's Kickstarter, check out Mighty Mascots.
That's right.
If you haven't gotten it yet, if you're not sick of me saying it, talking about it, so check it out. And then also the live stream is now going to be on Tuesday nights going forward, every other week. We're going to put a poll to see if 8:30 is a good start time. It might be, it might not be. 8:39. Let us know. And then otherwise, that's about it for this week. I'd say everybody have a great New Year's, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. All right. Have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you later. See you in 2023. All right.
Be excellent, everybody.
Exactly. Good night.